We are back.
We're back,
Yes.
up and running.
Mm-hmm.
The final
I
time.
hope you guys, yes, everyone who has stayed with us, thank you. I
Mhm.
hope you still love us.
Please give us one more chance. We'll be better. Very
Hello.
sorry.
If you're new, this is Haters Without a Cause, episode 1. This is our third
Yes,
time trying to broadcast.
it is our third time and our third introduction. Anybody who has literally been here since the start, thank you. And we'll do the introduction one more time.
Mm-hmm.
So bear with us, please. Anyway, we are Haters Without a Cause. I'm Perry, and this is my friend Ebe. And
Howdy.
we started this podcast so that we could delve into and analyze our favorite and least favorite media. Today we're going to be talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender. And we have an iceberg of kind of lesser known topics and lore from the series that we just wanted to delve right into. So bear with us, please.
Mm-hmm. So, first on the iceberg is the idea that Kyoshi created the Dai Li. Avatar Kyoshi, kind of a hard ass avatar. She
Mm-hmm.
is from the Earth Kingdom. She is two avatars before Aang. She may or may not have killed someone. She had really big feet. She
Mm-hmm.
was huge, and she lived to be
What more is
200.
there to say?
Yeah,
What more is there to say? Just what a woman.
she was the whole package from what I hear.
Yeah, she was definitely a force to be reckoned with, and just an absolute badass. Like we were just saying, he absolutely killed a guy, in my opinion. But that is to be debated.
That is debatable. I heard he fell.
Oh, you heard?
Hmm. I was there
Check the
actually.
footprint. Oh, were you?
Yeah, he was too. He didn't move out of the way in time. It was his fault. It's a skill issue.
Blaming the victim.
Anyway,
But anyway, so she created this agency called the Dai Li, who would go on to do really horrible things in Avatar. Just god awful, keeping prisoners, keeping secrets,
kidnapping
siding with
bison.
siding with
Absolutely
the Fire
horrible.
Nation,
Oh yeah,
yeah. To serving under Azula, Princess Azula.
that's just wild to me. Like they were trying to burn the entire Earth Kingdom to the ground.
Hmm. And it wound up. Didn't she wind up firing them all anyway? And they followed her to the Fire Kingdom.
Yeah, so she took over Bossing Say, so they started working for her to the Fire Nation. She took some agents,
Hmm.
and then she fired them. So I guess they were like, fuck, now what do we do? We betrayed our country, and we betrayed our new leader. I like to think they took the walk
Yeah.
back to Bossing Say, and they were like, can we come back?
Hey, Basing say,
I know we
get
did
me
some
behind those
things.
walls. But we're better now. We're
Crash it into the
reformed.
ground.
We have
Mm-hmm.
decorum. Mm-hmm.
So they're basically the Earth Kingdom KGB. They're bad dudes. But apparently they weren't always bad dudes. Um, Kyoshi, it could have been like upwards of 150 years ago or something. There
Mm-hmm.
were some peasant uprisings in Ba Sing Se, and the king at the time didn't like that. So he called the
Mm-hmm.
Avatar and he said, "Hey, you, Avatar, deal with these people. I don't care if you have to kill them. I know you can do it. Just get them out of my city. Take care of the problem."
Mm-hmm.
And Kyoshi said, "Absolutely not. I'm for the people, and the king tried to have her arrested. He said, "Guards, take her in." And yeah, four regular earthbending dudes tried to take out the Avatar. I'll give you three
Yeah.
guesses for how that went. So
I
she
was gonna
said,
say, yeah, that was a good idea.
"Yeah, I'm sure it turned out real well for those guys. They're probably dead. I don't know." So she said,
Uh,
"I'm going to make a deal with you, Mr. King, sir. You start treating these people better, and I will create a secret police to, and I quote, preserve the cultural heritage of Ba Sing Se." So she trained an
mm,
elite group of earthbenders. They were supposed to be silent and deadly and precise, and in her own words, feared by all. Um, they turned out to be corrupt after she died. The lesson that was to be learned from that was that avatars can do things that have long lasting consequences.
hmm That is very true. Like even with Aang, like I feel like things that he did when he was the Avatar, specifically later on in his life, which we'll get more into when we discuss Korra and life after Aang, but like, starting Republic City and everything. But even
Mm-hmm.
just while he was going, like things that were going on while he was still the Avatar when he was 112 at the time. Like when he went, I forget what the city was called or where they were heading, but they had to go through the valley with those two groups of people that hated each other,
Oh,
and
the Great
he just
Divide,
straight the Great Divide, yes, and he
the
just
most
straight up
popular episode of the series.
yes, and he just straight up lied to their faces,
Mm-hmm.
which is very out of character for an airbender, let alone Aang himself. Because the monks kind of preach like honesty and upholding like good values, and out of nowhere, Aang just lets the gang know that he just lied to their faces to preserve peace. But
Yeah.
going forward, those groups stopped hating each other.
Yeah, there's a conversation to be had about that scene. Like, they were lying about events that they don't even have all the details of. So,
Mm-hmm.
just like as a pragmatic decision, just tell them a story that makes sense to both parties, just for the sake of like ending the feud. I think I'm
Mm-hmm.
mostly okay with that. I don't even know if it's too far out of Aang's character. If he lied to like brew conflict between them, that's another conversation.
That's true, yeah. This was to avoid conflict and cease hundreds of years of fighting. But
Yes.
speaking of airbenders and just their morals in general, I think we should move to the next topic, which is about Monk Gyatso and how people have a theory that he was reincarnated as Momo.
Yeah, and it's not just a theory. It was an original plan for the series. Um,
Hmm.
not sure. I'm not sure how you would go about explaining something like that. Like how do you fit that in? And
Yeah,
then
I
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I guess like in the actual story itself, like they tried to imply it by everything like leading up to when they first met Momo at the air temple, and Momo led Aang to Gyatso's dead body, surrounded by like the other Fire Nation
Yeah,
bodies. Yeah, so I think that was like the start of it, like trying to be like, hey, this is Gyatso because he wanted to show you, but I don't think they went much further than that. So it's a even if it was an original plan, they definitely did not follow through with it.
yeah. I don't mind leaving it as something like hinted, but if you make it
Yeah.
explicit, then you raise questions of like, okay, so it's not just the avatar that can be reincarnated. It's like what's going on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, like you said, that just leads to confusion like about the storyline itself, and
And the
it's not
world and
great.
how it works. Because then I'd be asking, like,
Yeah,
are there any other animals that are just reincarnations of people?
exactly. And I don't know. I think that's not my favorite idea or storyline that they could have done or should have done.
Speaking of the airbenders, this was something that's always bothered me about the show. What do you think of do you think logistically it's possible for the Fire Nation to have wiped out every single one of them except Aang?
That I have a very strong opinion about. Because I understand that the air nomads and the airbenders are a peaceful, like, group of people, and they were known for avoiding conflict and deflecting rather than fighting directly as much as they could. Um, they were strong as hell. Like, they were very powerful benders. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
impossible to think about the fact that Fire Nation could have wiped them all out and they would have just let it happen. But I guess I see how it was very important. Obviously, it was very important to the story. It's the title, The Last Airbender. But
Yeah.
it like puts all this weight onto Aang's shoulders to like carry on this legacy of his people who are now dead, and he has to uphold the traditions and all these things that only he knows now. It's just like baffling to me that all of them got wiped out. Especially, what is it, the Southern Air Temple that's upside down?
No, that's the Western Ear Temple.
Western Air Temple, excuse me. How did they get to them? Like, I guess like through ropes, like
That's the thing
climbing
that bothers
down.
me because this was before they invented hot air balloons, and the
Yeah.
game says like explicitly the only way to get to the air temples is by flying bison. So I'm like,
Hmm.
how'd you do it? You know what I
How'd
mean?
you get there? Yeah. There's no way they could have gotten there.
And like you
Oh.
said, like airbending is like potentially the strongest. Like you can take the air out of somebody's lungs. A lot of people have noticed that like Monkey Otso's skeleton is like surrounded by firebender skeletons. So he for sure fucked some people up. But like
Oh yeah, I.
I don't know. I don't know if they could have wiped out all of them. Like I get that they were ambushed, but it's like did he
Hmm,
ambush all of them at the same time? Because
I don't
surely like
know.
they would have communicated with each other and be like, "Hey, the Fire Nation's fucking up our people. You guys gotta get ready and like prepare an army."
Absolutely. Like, I don't think they had enough of an army yet to attack every single temple at the same time, alone the
Yeah,
resources. But I completely agree, like with what you were just saying about how Monk Gyatso was surrounded by skeletons. There is that theory that he sucked the air out of the room, so not only killing all the firebenders around him, but himself in the process. That's why he didn't, seem like, because he
oh,
was just
people think he
sitting. He
killed
wasn't like,
himself.
yes, that's what people like. That's a theory. I don't know. I believe that honestly because it didn't seem like Monkiatso's skeleton had been like altered in any way. It literally looked like he was just meditating, sitting there.
That's true. He's in a very a peaceful position, you would say.
Hmm. So I think for that reason, that's not a far like fetched theory that he sucked the air out of the room and killed everyone in there, including himself, which sucks. But I think he did it for the greater good in
It
his
does
like
suck. It quite literally sucks. He sucked the air out of the
horrible.
room.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know. I think it's interesting.
the other thing is the air nomads. They were nomads, so they were traveling the
Hmm.
world. Um,
Yes,
they
exactly.
couldn't
That's
have all
another
been at the
theory.
air temples. They couldn't have been,
Exactly.
just
Because
like statistically.
like exactly, like they were saying that like not to get ahead of ourselves, but again in Korra, like how are that bison like completely wiped out as well? How was Appa the last one? And that was the theory. Before we get into Korra, obviously it gets more explained in that series, but like for right now, we're under the impression that Aang and Momo and Appa are literally the last
Like the last
anything
of
of
their
the air.
kinds.
Exactly.
And
It's
I
like
don't know if I buy that.
they are air nomads. They go around and they walk around and do whatever. And there's no way they could have gotten every single one of them. Like what was a master that Aang learns his chakras through? What was
Oh,
his name?
Guru Patik.
Guru Guru Patik.
Yeah, who
Yes.
is he?
he said he himself personally knew Monkey Otso. Like, there's got to be other people out there who knew of the air nomads and temples, and even if they weren't airbenders themselves, like just were associated with them.
Yeah, like I can believe the Fire Nation sent out people to like hunt down and kill the remaining airbenders, but like the world's a big
Mm.
place. Uh, I don't think
Yeah.
because people would have settled down, you know, they would have had children and their children would have had children.
Mm.
Uh, I know they all need to be dead for the story to happen, but it just seems a
Yeah.
little. It's one of those where I'm like, if you say so,
I
I'll
guess.
take your word for it.
Like how in so many scenes in Avatar, you're like, oh, they just murdered that entire village, and then everybody somehow miraculously lives. It's
Yeah,
like
we're just supposed to ignore
cartoon
the
logic.
people off screen who are definitely dead. It's like when
Cartoon logic.
correct. It's like you know how May is like really good at throwing knives, but every
Mhm.
time she does, they have to dodge it or it has to be blocked by something. Because if
Mhm.
she was 100% accurate all the time, like people would die. Our characters would die.
Yeah, yeah.
They'd be stabbed to
Like
death.
be yeah, or be severely injured. And Katara wasn't as good a healer at the time as she is like later in life. So it's like there's only so much she could have done.
It's the same thing with fire bending. Fire always has to miss
Hmm.
because it's a
Otherwise,
kill move. It's over. You're dead.
yeah, like there should have been so many more people, even in the gang, should have burns like the way Zuko
Yeah.
does, like just straight up burns, but nobody
Oh
does
my god, the amount of
besides
fights they
him.
get in where people are just throwing fire left and right.
It's insane. I don't even understand how fire like members of the Fire Nation army themselves don't have burns just from themselves or like the people around them throwing
You're
fire like
right, like
willy nilly.
conjuring fire.
Yeah, like and like literally blanking on his name. Chow the
Zhao.
Conqueror.
Zhao? Yeah.
Chow the Conqueror. Yeah. How how he was just so destructive with fire and didn't think about anything around him.
He
That dude
just
should have
didn't
burned
care.
half his army.
Yeah. He did not care. Didn't he
Not
wait,
at all.
didn't he burn like a dozen of his ships in a fight he had with Aang?
Yeah, it was the
There were
first
people
time.
in that ship.
But of course, they're not going to show that or mention that because it's a cartoon and everybody lives in the
It's
end.
like shh, they're fine. They're
But that's when Aang first learns firebending from that older master who's part of the White
fine.
Lotus.
Jong
I'm
Jong.
also blanking. Jong Jong. Yes, I'm blanking on so many names for some reason. I'm sorry, but he learns from him, and then he has that discussion. He finds out that Zhao was studying under Zhang Zhang years and years ago, and then he's like, "Yo, he's destructive with fire. He doesn't know how to control it." That's when Aang is jumping from ship to ship, making fun of Zhao, and he freaks out and lights all his whole fleet on fire.
Yep. He's taking advantage of his anger and his destructive nature with fire.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if
So,
I lived in this world and I was a firebender, I'd be like, man, I got the short end of the stick. Like, I have this incredibly destructive element that if I'm not careful with, I destroy everything around me. I
mm-hmm.
could potentially hurt myself, and I can't even hit anyone with it because they have plot armor.
Mm-hmm. So, speaking of actually, just a little side tidbit. What kind of bender do you think you would be?
If I had the choice, I would pick water.
Choice, but who do you think you are in your soul?
Hmm, probably air.
Yeah, I get that vibe for you too.
My uh, my brother actually had the idea that like whatever element your sign is, that should be your bending type.
Yeah, I get that, but also I think no Aquarius would ever be an airbender ever.
Oh yeah, I
From a
didn't think of that.
just from a zodiac standpoint, because Aquariuses are just not meant to be air nomads. Getting ahead of ourselves, getting ahead of ourselves. Zodiacs have nothing to do with this, but that's just my theory. But I see what your brother was saying. That's a good way to look at it. But then by that logic, I would be an airbender and you would be a waterbender.
which is fine with me.
Yeah,
I
but
say
I
like, yeah,
think
that's an interesting way to look at it.
I kind of agree with you. I think you would be an airbender. And when I was younger, I thought being a firebender would be super cool because let's be real, they have the coolest uniforms, the black and red, the
Oh yeah.
style, so sick. Even though they're terrible people in Airbender series, but I know in my heart I'm probably a waterbender.
If you had the choice, you would be fire.
I don't know because I go back and forth between water and fire. I don't think I would be Earth at all. That's just not me. But air also doesn't really feel like me because even though I like what the air nomads stand for, and they're all vegetarian and peace on earth, whatever, I'm not that spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
So it would definitely be between water and fire, but I think when it comes down to it, I have more traits of the water tribe, like love and family and friends and like
Community.
yes, and protecting the ones you love, whereas fire is more just like in its best, like, the firebenders in their best era. It's more like still pretty like regimented, I feel like, and
I
no.
feel like they're. Doesn't Iroh say they're the element of power? They're
Mm-hmm.
about drive, like going for
They're
what it
about
is they
drive.
want. Yeah, it's about drive. It's about power.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think that's a cool thing. Like I think when I was younger, I was like, oh yeah, it would be so cool and so powerful, and I still think that, but I know in my heart I'm too sensitive.
I also think about like what would just be practical in this world. I think
Yeah.
water has. I think water is the most versatile.
Hmm. Yeah, especially because they could pull it out of anything. Like when Katara pulls it out of her sweat and the flowers and trees around her.
The air. There's water molecules in
Yeah,
the air.
yeah. And when it's raining, she stops in that one scene where she's hunting down the guy who murdered her mother. Um, she just like it's literally raining, but she pauses all the rain droplets around her. Like so freaking powerful. I would argue that airbenders are the most powerful, especially not only that, but bloodbending.
Wait, wait, wait. Are you telling me Katara has the ability to control the weather?
I think I am. I think I am.
For those who don't know, there's like an Avatar fan account or whatever. I don't want to make fun of the guy. He's just doing his own thing. But like
Yeah.
when you post
Make fun of
like, do
him.
you remember that time where Katara literally stopped the rain? I just have to be like, yeah, she's a waterbender.
Like, yeah, what the fuck did you
You're
think
gonna
she
tell
was gonna
me
do?
next. You're gonna tell me Aang controls wind. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, we know. But you're gonna tell me that UA can control the tides. Like,
Are you
oh,
serious? Is she the
are you
moon or
dead
something?
ass? Oh my god. So funny.
But yeah, like I think about being an earthbender, like in this world that we live in. It's like, man, that doesn't seem very practical at all. Like, there's like
No.
chunks and like columns of earth all over the place because people are bending.
Hmm. I think what would be more practical is metal bending, but that doesn't even become widely done until Korra. But Toph does
Mm-hmm.
invent it in Avatar.
Yeah, because she's awesome.
Yeah, because she's so freaking powerful. It's insane. But unpopular opinion, I don't love Toph.
Oh, tell us more. Because I think Toph is pretty great.
Toph is what literally one of the most powerful benders in the entire show. Like that's not debatable. She literally
Mm-hmm.
invents metal bending and as a young blind girl takes out men over half of her age who are strong as hell and have been bending since
Double
before
her
she was
size
born.
too.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There's no arguing that. Um, my issue with her, I think, is more of her attitude. I think it's fine towards other people. It's like funny. It's totally in her character to just be a jerk and mess around. But I think she was up until like she got a bit more comfortable like towards season 3 where she was opening up more when they were in the Fire Nation, and her and Katara kind of had a better bond. And I can't imagine what it was like to be a blind girl who was patronized her whole life by her family, and then the second she gets some freedom, of course she's going to be a little bit of a dick. But like, I don't know, her just attitude never sat right with me. Like, she was a bit too harsh on Aang, in my opinion, when mentoring him.
Oh, so
I
your
don't know. What do
problem
you
is
think?
her attitude. Is that what you're
It
saying?
is, yes. Yes. It's not her as a person, it's her attitude.
Oh, okay. Um, I thought where you were going with that is that's like her being she's like overpowered almost. So she like ruins the stakes of whatever fight she's in because she just dominates.
No. No, I like that. I think that's insanely powerful. Like, and it makes sense for her character.
Um, I guess how you feel about her attitude is subjective. I care
Yeah,
more about like if
absolutely.
it makes sense for the character, and
Hmm.
it does. It lines up to me. I found her to be like grating at times, especially that episode where everybody was sleep deprived, and
Yeah.
Katara's like, "Hey, you should help us set up camp," and Toph is all like, "Well, I have my own thing set up here, so I'm
Hmm.
good." It's like it's I like the episode because it's a strong
Hmm.
case of like miscommunication. Um, Toph has been coddled her whole life, and now she has a chance to
Hmm.
look after herself and take care of herself. But the group dynamic has been we help each other out.
Hmm.
But she's not familiar with that yet, so what she hears is you should do everything for us.
Yeah. I agree with you in the sense that I think that episode did need to happen because it does show them like being able to integrate Toph into the
Yeah,
gang
I
more.
like it a lot. I like that there's friction when there's
Hmm.
introducing someone new into the established dynamic.
Yeah, and that's with everything, honestly. So it makes sense that they would have portrayed that. That like, of course, she's not going to integrate with them perfectly for these strangers, literally strangers that she just met, and Aang
Basically
and
like took her
Katara.
from her house.
Exactly. And Aang and Katara and Sokka have been traveling the world for like weeks together at that point, so they already have an established dynamic. And now Toph, this little like angry first time away from home blind girl, it's gonna cause that issue. But I do agree with the fact that it was a bit annoying how she was like, I'm pulling my own weight. And it's like,
Yeah,
that's not the point. You guys are a group.
we help each other. It's not like every man for himself.
Absolutely. So, did get a bit off topic, but which is expected and I love it. But I think we should go on to the next one about Zuko's mom.
The long tale of Zuko's mum.
Uh,
So,
so
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I want you to start this because you know more about it than I do.
All right. So, as we know from the show, uh, Zuko he's got a nice old mum, but she disappeared before the events of the series, and Zuko has no idea why. It's one of the biggest things that haunts him because he thinks that his father had something to do with it. In fact, I'm pretty sure he has an idea that she might be dead.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but Ozai tells her that she was indeed banished. But we don't
Mm-hmm.
get to learn the details of that in the series. I think it was planned, but they didn't have time.
Yeah,
Um,
and
I thought it was fine leaving it ambiguous, but they continued it in the comics.
mm-hmm. And I personally haven't read the comics yet. I really want to, and that's my next step after I finish rewatching Korra. But I've heard different things about it, so I get like I have the general idea of it, but I think you could explain it better than I could since you've actually read most of them.
Okay, so I guess I'll explain what happened and then say how I feel about it. So, we got a neat little trilogy called The Search. Um, so during a flashback in Zuko Alone, when Iroh lost his son and left Ba Sing Se.
That freaking episode on his son's birthday.
Very
Anyway,
sad.
sorry. Keep going.
Yeah, he left Ba Sing Se and during his siege, and he was disgraced. So Ozai was like, "Hey, Dad." Azulon is his dad. He said, "Hey, Dad, you should let me have the throne since Iroh's such a loser." And Azulon
Exactly
said,
how he said it, by the way.
yeah, this is quote word for word. And Azulon said, "How dare you? Iroh is my favorite son, and he's the oldest. For your insolence, you're going to learn what it's like to lose your firstborn." He was going to kill Zuko for Ozai's insolence.
Kill
Oh my
Ozai at that
god.
point.
Yeah, seriously. So Zuko and Azula overheard this, as we saw in the flashback, and apparently Ozai was going to do it, but his mom Ursa said, "No, I like my son, and I'm not going to let you kill him." And Ozai was like, "Okay, so you're going to have to work out a deal, because my dad wants me to kill our son, and I want the throne." So Ursa's like, "Okay, I think I know a way we can both get what we want." So she was an herbalist before she met Ozai. So she concocted a potion that was tasteless, colorless, and odorless, and it was a poison. You can put it in Azulon's tea, kill him, and then Ozai could take the throne. Zuko doesn't have to die. Everybody wins. So
See, I didn't know that. I had the idea that they had murdered Azulon so that Ozai could take the throne, obviously, but I didn't know that they made him a tea.
it is alluded to in the series, because Ozai said, "Your mother did treacherous things that night." But we don't learn what the treacherous things are until the comic.
Yeah.
So for killing a monarch, she had to be banished, which makes sense. You gotta go.
Does.
You gotta
But
go into hiding.
it's for the greater good. She saved her only son, and let's be her favorite kid.
Yeah, no secret there.
For good goddamn reason, Azula was absolutely insane.
Yeah, she was a
Um,
psychopath from the beginning.
yeah, and she said um, her mom knew she was a monster.
But I find Azula fascinating as a character. I want to talk about her at some point. But anyway, Ursa had to leave because it's only a matter of time till someone traces it back to her, and she met up with an old flame, someone that she loved before she met Ozai. And when I say
I did
met
not know that.
Ozai, I mean Ozai was walking around looking at all the ladies of the Fire Nation, and he said, "I want that one." And during that time period, if the Fire Prince wants to marry you, you don't have a choice.
And I think that's also interesting that he chose her, considering the fact that her grandfather was Avatar Roku, and Ozai's.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up, because that was why he wanted her.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's like,
I
we should bring these families together.
mhm.
So it
because
was
of
a political move. It was not out of love.
because of yeah because of the fact that um, Ozai's grandfather was Sozin,
Fire Lord Sozin.
Fire Lord
Yeah.
Sozin, yeah. And Fire Lord Sozin, for those who don't know, Fire Lord Sozin and Avatar Roku were best bros up like at the beginning of their lives, and even up until like the midpoint, until Ozai explained to Roku like, "I think the Fire Nation is the best nation. We could rule the world." And Ozai's like, or excuse me, Roku was like, "You're insane. The whole point of like the different nations and different elements is so that we have balance." and there's no freaking way I'm going to let you take over, and stops him. And of course, in the end, Ozai winds up betraying Roku, and he winds up dying after in the like lava ash kind of fire. And
Yeah.
Ozai goes on to start the 100-Year War.
Bad man. Bad man.
Very bad, man.
So
That's
yeah.
but I do like that for the theory that they mention. That now, um, Zuko has the good and the bad in him from both of those families.
Generational trauma at its
Yeah.
finest.
Mm-hmm. It was really well done. I mean, and like you said, you want to go into Azula. I would also like to go into Zuko at some point, so maybe we could do like a little Fire Lord Kids episode. But
Sure.
like, because both of their stories are very well done.
Yes. But onto Zuko's mom. Like at
Yes.
this point, I'm okay with everything. It's everything that happens afterwards. I'm like, this is a story that didn't need to be told, and you told it
Mm-hmm.
anyway, and it's not great.
Mm-hmm.
So her and the old flame, I don't remember his name, they meet up with this spirit called the Mother of Faces. And
Oh,
this spirit
yeah.
is apparently Ko the Face Stealer's mother.
Yeah, I have heard this, yeah.
Yeah, and apparently he collects faces as a way of, I guess he wants to be like her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting. Neat. They've added to the lore. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so Ursa goes to the spirit and she's like, "Hey, I need a new face. I'm starting over a new life with my boyfriend here." So Mother of Faces gives her a new face, new name, and new memories. So she and Old Flame started a family of their own, and they had a little daughter. And she completely
I did
forgot
not know
about her
that.
old life as Zuko's mom.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and the search is about like finding her and like reminding her of who she used to be, and I don't like it. I know
Oh.
like amnesia is like a plot point like generally, but like
Mm-hmm.
you had Zuko's mom kill a monarch to save her son. Like that is like a Chad mom move. And you
Based.
had to go and make her forget all that and forget that she was Zuko's mom and then have a kid with someone else. It's like
Yeah. Based Ursa, and then they ruin her. I agree with you. I hate the idea of amnesia as a plot point in general. I think it's a pretty bad cop out. And like especially in those movies where it's typically like the woman loses her memory and then her husband or boyfriend or whatever has to like make her fall in love with him all over again. It's like those are so corny in my opinion.
yeah, I would have been
It
okay
has the
if they
same vibe.
just like hit went into hiding with him or something. I don't
Mm-hmm.
even care that they had a kid. Like just drop the thing where she like becomes a new person and loses all her memories. That's really my
Mm-hmm.
problem, losing her memories.
Makes sense. Yeah. But crazy. Speaking though of Zuko, I'd like to go to the next one where we're talking about Zuko's hair evolution. This I think this was really like it's just a small detail that is so popular in the Avatar universe. They're just so big on little small storylines and details that you pick up on later or when rewatching. I really love that about them. But specifically Zuko's hair when he's first in the Fire Nation and when he's first banished, it's in this like tight high ponytail and as like a symbol of the Fire Nation and how restrictive they are and like having to abide to their rules and become this rigid and horrible person that he did not want to be. And then the second that him and Iroh decide that they're going to leave, at least, live out their banishment, he cuts it off and Rose starts to grow it out. And that's when he starts to get really sick. I think they're in Ba Sing Se at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's like showing that inner conflict within himself. Like he was killing the bad parts of him, become this better person. So he got sick, like literally physically sick. He had to sweat out all the like badness, like bad toxins inside of him or whatever. And by the time all that happens, obviously he winds up going back to the Fire Nation with Azula. He betrays Iroh, and suddenly he has that tight bun hair again. And then when he leaves, he starts wearing it down, like loose and flowy, and it really shows his character progression, like on and on throughout the seasons. Like it's just a really good small detail, in my opinion.
It's his best look.
Mm-hmm.
I actually heard that like everybody's character design changes sort of reflects like their growth throughout the series. Like Katara as well, she wears her hair in hair loopies in
Mm-hmm.
book 1, and then book 2, I think she continues wearing the hair loopies, but then book 3 she lets it all down.
And she starts wearing the blend. I know it was like to blend in with the Fire Nation, but I kind of agree. She does like get less rigid and mothery and lets loose a little bit and starts to become a really powerful bender.
Yeah, and even in her clothes, like her book 1 clothes, it's very I guess it's like what a motherly like water tribe person would wear.
Mm-hmm.
And then book 3 she has like towards the end of book 3 she almost has like a combat outfit.
Mm-hmm.
She has like her water pouches attached to her sides. um yeah, like I said, her hair is let down. It shows like how much of a different character this person is over the course of this series. Aang as
Uh,
well, he wears his air nomad
oh,
clothes book 1 and 2, and then book 3 in the beginning, like the first half he has his hair and his Fire Nation clothes, and then the second half he goes back to shaving it, and then but he almost goes back to wearing his clothes, but he almost wears it as like a sash, or what's the
yeah,
word,
I
like
was
a
gonna say it was
toga.
way flowier.
Yeah, like he exposes some of his chest. It looks really cool.
Mm-hmm. It does. That's probably one of my favorites of his looks, especially after like you don't even realize after the whole season until you see him in his original air nomad clothes and bald again that you're like, oh, there he is. Like you're like, oh shit, I didn't realize how much those Fire Nation clothes and hair like just took away his identity.
Mm-hmm. And then
Especially when he
Toph,
was
she wears the same outfit throughout the entire series. Well, except they're in the Fire Nation.
and yeah, but she doesn't change very much.
She doesn't change. Yeah, I don't even
No.
think that's a bad thing. I think there's value in flat characters. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think Toph had her development like before we meet her, if that makes sense. Like she's a
Yeah,
confident
definitely.
badass, but she had to make her way to that point by
Mm-hmm.
acting out and being a wrestler. And then she ends the series as a confident badass, because like where do you really go from there? I think the only real lesson
Mm-hmm.
she learned is like she's allowed to be like more vulnerable around her friends and ask them for help.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that's a very like good point. Like I was just thinking about Zuko, but you're absolutely right. Like the fact that their hair and clothes change throughout the group. Like even Sokka, like he starts wearing his hair. He lets the sides grow out and
Mm-hmm.
like wears it down sometimes, and it's just a bit more relaxed and starts to adopt. Especially when they find their father, he starts to adopt more of like a warrior type look, just like a.
Yeah, to show how much more mature he's gotten and how capable he is of leading.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely. So just very interesting and very small details that I think just really showed the bigger picture of Avatar as a whole.
Yeah, when you see what they go like into battle with in the final episodes, like you have Sokka wearing like the warrior wolf clothes. Um, Toph has like her little helmet. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Katara has those battle clothes that I mentioned earlier. Zuko, he's just like he's in his regular clothes. He's just in his
He's
robes.
just chilling. He's always wearing those chill Fire Nation clothes, except for when they went into hiding and he was wearing Earth Kingdom clothes.
Yeah, but when you think about what he was wearing in book one, it's just like loads of armor, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
big chunks, big shoulder spikes. And then season two was about like breaking him down, learning to
Mm-hmm.
like live among the people, seeing firsthand what the war has done to people and
Yeah,
learning to
just
live among
seeing,
them.
yeah, seeing the direct action that his nation has caused, specifically his father, and having to live the life that they're living. Like he went from a life of like luxury and like sophistication and having everything he ever wanted, uh, literally having nothing to the point where he was starving sometimes and
Yeah,
had to do work for other people.
living the peasant life. And I think it's very
Mm-hmm.
significant that like in his final confrontation with Azula, he's not wearing armor, he's not wearing the shoulder spikes. Azula is,
Mm-hmm.
but he's just wearing like normal, almost like Fire Nation civilian clothes because he's so much more
Mm-hmm.
humble. He's just a guy trying to do the right thing.
Absolutely. And I really admire that about him just in general, but definitely shows his character progression from season one. But
I
speaking
love
of
it.
Azula, same. Literally one of the best characters in a series ever.
He deserves all the
Speaking
praise
of
he gets.
exactly, uh, speaking of Azula, um, next topic is about her blue flames.
Yes,
She
Azula creates blue fire.
does.
Why?
Oh,
Because she's just that good.
yeah, I know there's a lot of controversy around it sometimes, like because the obvious answer is she has the hottest fire because the hottest fire is blue, and like, she's just that powerful that her flames and she has that much rage and hate inside of her because that's what the Fire Nation at that time was teaching, that fire came from hatred and rage. It didn't come from life and power and the sun. She
Mm-hmm.
just had that much hate inside of her that her flames were blue. Ah, I love that. But I know some people are like, well, that's the obvious answer. Blah, 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 blah. It's probably because of this. Like, no, some things should just be simple.
Yeah, I don't even know why this is like so controversial. Like, it made sense to
Mm-hmm.
me the first time I was watching it. I was like, okay, her fire is blue. I'm guessing it's like hotter or it's just like a reflection. I was willing to believe that it was just like a unique thing to her because it
Mm-hmm.
is, and it's like she's just that skilled with firebending. It's like it's has like a focus, a control, and it
Yeah,
and like in a meta sense, it helps to visually distinguish her flames from Zuko, like in a firefight.
absolutely.
Oh, the final
Especially in the
fight
last
between
fight.
them. Yeah.
Yep,
You
yep.
just see like these pillars of like orange and blue like clashing against each other.
Oh,
So
so beautiful.
cool. So
So
cool like
beautiful.
visually.
hmm
It almost looks like
Absolutely.
cotton candy. Like you have like these plumes of fire.
It's really interesting, and I agree. Like, I think just from a visual standpoint, that was a really good thing on their end, just having it because they knew they were going to make them battle those ways, and even like speaks to the fact that Fire Lord Ozai doesn't even have blue fire. He just had like he had blue lightning, but I think
Yeah.
all lightning was blue.
Mhm. All lightning is
So,
blue. I was willing to
hmm
believe that like Azula is just like an anomaly. I'm like, sure.
hmm
Um, can we talk about that fight though? Cause like I wanted to talk about like it's almost a callback to the first Agni Kai that Zuko had with
hmm
Xiao. Um,
hmm
it all comes back to the advice that Iroh gave him, like stick to
yeah.
your roots, like stand your ground. And you notice during that fight with Azula, Zuko is not moving, like he's holding his
hmm
place. Azula is the one who's like zipping all over the battlefield, using the fire
hmm
to propel herself. She's tiring herself out. By the time like Zuko knocks her over, Azula's just like, can we take a break? And Zuko's just, he's focusing on his breathing. He's cool, he's calm, he's collected. It's like,
hmm
man, it's the show really rewards people who have like been sticking around from the beginning.
Absolutely,
The
yeah.
first
And
episode is called The Boy and the Iceberg, and the last one is called Avatar Aang.
That's amazing. Like, just little details like that are really, really amazing.
It's
It's
fantastic.
really good story writing, and I completely agree with you. Like, how Zuko eventually does adapt Iroh's teachings and listen to him, because he, along the whole, like, way, he starts to realize that his uncle is the most powerful firebender there is, in my opinion. And because of the way that he knows, like, he met the last dragons, he was gifted the power of fire through life and through, like, the sun, like, not just hatred. He
Mm.
knew where it came from, he knew the original source, and he was spiritual, so he knew the significance of that, which made him, like, calming and have that, like, very specific stance, if that makes any sense. Like, he
Yeah,
just stood his ground and did it in a way where he knew it wouldn't cause the most destruction, but also would help him win.
yeah. Do you notice that like Iroh's in the beginning, he's constantly drilling like the basics, the fundamentals. Even when Zuko's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Teach me the advanced set," it's like the fundamentals. You need to master those because they're going, and he does. Like those end up helping him
Mm-hmm.
out a lot. Like when he's at the North Pole, he's able to survive underwater in like the Arctic for a long
Mm-hmm.
time in freezing temperatures, all because he focused on his breath. Like I
I was
love
just gonna
little
say,
payoffs like that.
yeah, like how he was preaching that, he was like, fire comes from the breath. It doesn't come from hatred and from, like, your fists. It comes from,
Yeah.
like, inside of you.
It's not about like big flashy moves. It's like the almost boring but practical side of it. It's what helps him
Mm-hmm.
survive in the cooler too, the boiling rock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, that's just, again, something he uses throughout the entire series.
It just shows that like Iroh was the most influential teacher to him.
Absolutely, and for good goddamn reason. I really do think Iroh was the most powerful firebender of that time.
Yeah, Uncle Iroh, he's a fan favorite for a lot of people, but
Mm-hmm.
some have the opinion that he is actually a villain.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to lead into this. That's kind of why I wanted to bring him up too, because of his past. People hate him because he was a war criminal, and he was a damn good one.
Yes, he did some bad things, but
Yeah.
the official Avatar YouTube channel actually seems to hold this belief too, and they have
Hmm.
created a video talking about why Uncle Iroh is a villain.
Hmm.
What do you say we
And
check it out?
sounds good. Start playing.
Let's put on watch together. Boom. Gonna put this on just in case of copyright.
Smart, because we did get copyrighted on our test yesterday.
We did.
We did. So if something does happen while this is going on, we will be back. Please don't leave. But if we'll probably be good this time. And if you want to pause throughout and talk about it, I'm totally okay with that too.
I think this is the only like full because I saw like the first minute of this. I think this is the only full clip they use. The rest is just the guy doing a voiceover.
Gotcha.
If only I could have helped you.
It's an unpopular opinion, but there's a hard truth about Uncle Iroh.
Hmm.
When we first met General Iroh, we knew off the bat that there was more to him than he let on. On the surface, always appeared as a peaceful old man who loved to drink tea, take hot baths, and play pai show.
Why don't you enjoy a cup of calming jasmine tea?
I don't need any calming tea!
But underneath that peaceful facade was a man who committed dozens of war crimes and atrocities across the four nations.
Across the four nations? All of them?
Mm. Hmm. I guess even the Fire Nation.
I guess even his own.
I guess
Yeah.
maybe they count his betrayal of the Fire Nation as that.
Maybe. I mean, he did sabotage. No, Zhao was going. He was going to sabotage the Fire Nation because he wanted to kill the Moon Spirit, which that fucks
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah. He literally almost destroyed the world doing that.
Yeah, maybe like in a courtroom or Fire Nation courtroom, that'd be treason. But as far as I'm
Mhm.
concerned, he was doing a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
He could have
But
seen the same fate as his younger brother Ozai. These two were born right in the middle of a 100-year war. They spent their childhood gearing up for the fight. They were extremely competitive, as most brothers are. Iroh even admired how tough and ruthless Ozai can be. They couldn't even...
Admired. Is that in the show?
I don't know. I
I
don't
think he
remember.
talks about his brother like a total of 2 times.
Yeah, I don't remember him praising him like that.
I don't remember him praising him at all. Like
Yeah.
every time he mentioned, it's almost like passive aggressive. When I like the one where Zuko's like, "My father will understand," and I was like, "You give him too much credit. He's not the understanding type."
Yeah.
No,
even get along through a game of Pai Sho without Ozai flipping the board. Iroh always saw the fire in his brother's eyes and pushed him to reach his maximum potential. And that would be his first mistake. He clearly pushed him too far. In a way, Iroh was a contributing...
What do you mean he pushed him? Where's that in the show?
I don't know. Maybe it's implied upon the fact that he was not like forced into his role as General Iroh, but I don't know. Like it seemed like Iroh kind of willingly did it. Maybe he did it out of fear, but I don't remember Ozai having any part in that.
I think we're meant to believe that Iroh was like full on Fire Nation or die until his son died, and then he was like, okay, I need to take a step back, and then he found enlightenment or whatever.
See, I don't believe that. I don't think that's true.
How do you think it happened?
I think Iroh always had good inside of him, but he was probably just manipulated by his family. I don't think he was Fire Nation or die. I think they preached that to him, so he was like, okay, whatever you say, Dad, like whatever you want, whatever you and grandfather think is best for me. I don't think he was ever like, yeah, hell yeah, destruction, fire, kill. Like, you don't have that kind of redemption as a person. Like, you don't go from Zhao to Zuko. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's personality wise.
You don't really come back from that.
You don't come back from being
That's like an
actual.
Almost 180.
Absolutely. I don't think you can come back from that.
There's a conversation to be had because during the flashback when Iroh, I think he sends him like a telegram from Ba Sing Se, and he says, the city's really beautiful. I hope you get to see it if we don't burn it to the ground first. Like, you can interpret that one of two ways. You can say like he's almost joking, like, yep, that's what we do. We burn places. But I guess some people have interpreted it as like he's excited almost.
I can see both interpretations, honestly, but I think in my opinion he was trying to come across as joking to like,
I think he's making light of the situation.
Yeah, and to like, make it seem like he is on board with all of this, but I think in his heart he was like, if we don't burn it to the ground first.
I don't know. Yeah. But then you have the conversation of like, so he's complicit in the actions of the Fire Nation? Like, is he culpable for that?
I think he can be held accountable for that, absolutely. Like, just because your family manipulates you doesn't mean they held his hand into blowing fire and like leading this group of people to also kill a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't twist his arm, but they definitely probably didn't make it an option to where he would be alive and well, or him and his son would have a good life outside of the nation if he betrayed them.
I think so, because then I have to ask, like, so at that point, what can he do to redeem himself? Like, does his record have to be squeaky clean for him to be a good person, TM? Because He tries to do good, like, in the present. I think
Yeah.
I think he is invested in the prosperity of the Fire Nation, but anything that threatens the world at large, he's like, no. He's also invested in keeping balance.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess that also just goes to most people and characters in general. Like, do you think somebody can change as a person after doing horrific things like that, or, having a troubled past or a complicated and controversial past? Like, do you think they can move forward and be better? And I think in my opinion, I think it's a case to case basis. Like, it's not or nothing. Some people, I think, genuinely regret what they did in their past. Like, just for instance, Iroh. I think he probably never forgave himself for what he did.
Mm-hmm.
But not for everybody. I don't think that's the case for everybody. I think Iroh is one of the select few where I believe that he is different.
There are people, believe it or not, who think Zuko doesn't deserve redemption. I'm like, no, you're insane.
That does not surprise me. Zuko did far less, like than Iroh ever did, but I'm sure just because Iroh started out good, that they were like, oh, no, he's fine, even though he murdered a bunch of people and almost overtook Ba Sing Se. And it's like, just because you didn't see him actively be evil, at one point he wasn't, or it wasn't, like, part of that,
Yeah, and Zuko, he's really just playing pretend, because he's trying to be like what he thinks his father wants him to be. But, like, Zuko wouldn't go out of his way to kill. I'm not going to say he didn't kill anyone, but he wouldn't. That's not something he would abide if he had the choice. He would threaten people for sure. But then there were people who were like, well, he attacked Kyoshi Island. I'm like, yeah? He burned down some houses. I'm not saying this is good. But I don't think anyone got hurt. As far as we see on screen anyway.
Yeah.
Factor to Ozai becoming, well, this guy.
So I want to roll that back. He said Iroh is the contributing factor to Ozai becoming a big bad evil man.
First mistake. He clearly pushed him too far. In a way, Iroh was a contributing factor to Ozai becoming, well, this guy.
How did you come to that conclusion?
Yeah, that's a bit of a reach. Like,
is he saying, like, the competition they had as brothers instilled a sense of, like, dominance in Ozai?
Are they trying to imply that Iroh taught Ozai? Which I don't think happened at all.
Yeah, there's nothing to support that.
If anything, they should have blamed Azula.
Yeah, I would blame Azula for making Ozai the way he was before Iroh.
Yeah, like, absolutely, pitting these two brothers against each other, instilling this horrible sense of, like, destruction and dominance and hatred into both of them. That's all Azula and Ozai. Or, not Ozai, excuse me, Sozin.
Mm-hmm. Azula is pretty evil.
Azula, yeah. I mean, look at his dad.
He tried to have Ozai kill his own son, like,
yeah,
because he dared ask for the throne.
Yeah, that's fucking freaking nuts, like.
But there's 9 minutes left. He could still convince us that Iroh is totally evil.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Now, you can argue that Ozai was just jealous of his brother. I mean, after all, Iroh was next in line for the throne, and he became a well-respected general in the Fire Nation army. Not to mention his firebending was overpowering. Dating back to Sozin, members of the royal family slayed dragons for sport. This was considered to be the pinnacle test of a firebender.
They were the ultimate firebenders. And if you could conquer one, your firebending talents would become legendary, and you'd earn the honorary title, Dragon.
Pause for copyright.
The last great dragon was conquered long before I was born. By my uncle.
Ironically, this was partially a lie. Iroh did track down the Sun Warriors and learn the ancient ways of firebending, but Iroh lied about slaying the last dragon. Yet he kept the title and the glory.
Is that bad?
In my opinion, no, because probably kept that to keep the lie going.
Yeah, he was protecting the dragons, first of all. But second of all, like, if you have a reputation, I don't think there's anything you can do about that. Like, he was known as the Dragon Slayer. It's like, people call you something that you're not. Like, what do you do about that? Because the only way to get them to stop calling you that is to tell them, no, I protected the last dragon. And then they're going to hunt him down.
Exactly, that's exactly what I was just going to say. Like, if he rejected that title, they would be like, why? Did you not actually kill the last dragon, you know?
Yeah. Like, this person in the video is acting like he did it as, like, an ego thing. Which I don't think he did.
Seeming like, I don't know, this guy is trying to really conflate the problem and, like, make it dramatic and clickbaity.
I think he's trying to, like, paint Iroh in, like, such a as horrible as possible. I don't think he's being fair. I feel like if you told Iroh, like, you know, people call you the Dragon Slayer, he'd be like, oh, that's interesting, and then sip his tea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But,
yeah, he wouldn't be like, yeah, I'm the Dragon Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, super weird.
Did I ever tell you how I got the nickname, the Dragon of the West?
I'm not interested in a lengthy anecdote, Uncle.
Yes, Iroh can...
Wait, they don't call him that because he slayed the dragon, though. They call him that because he can breathe fire.
I was just gonna say that.
He's conflating these two things. No, that's not why they call him the Dragon of the West.
They call him the Dragon of the West because literally in that scene, he knocks everybody out, breathing fire.
Did you... This is the Avatar YouTube channel, and I'm questioning if they've seen Avatar.
Breathe fire. And admittedly, it's awesome. But the title of Dragon is fake and undeserving. Iroh's title solidified himself as a great general for the Fire Nation. They loved him because he was a conqueror. Iroh was a major player in the Fire Nation's expansion. Throughout the series, we've seen the devastation that laid in the wake of the Fire Nation.
That's not all Iroh's fault, though.
Yeah, it's not all on his shoulders.
Acting like he single-handedly burned down these forests.
Yeah, why don't we blame Azula at that point?
Yeah, it's a whole military. It wasn't just one guy.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you like it or not, a lot of that traces back to Iroh.
I'm going to find Mom.
No! You don't know that! Is this an April
said?
Fool's video?
Who said?
I'm actually curious now. I'm going to see if this is an April Fool's video. No, it's not. He's serious.
He's dead ass.
My god, he's not even ironic.
Remember Yan-Ra? He was the commander of the Southern Raiders?
Yeah.
The same battalion that invaded the Southern Water Tribe and murdered Katara and Sokka's mother?
Yeah.
My source
He's evil.
We all watched it.
Waterbender left in the Southern Water
I don't
Tribe.
understand how this
We're
relates to
not
Iroh.
leaving until we find the Waterbender.
It's me.
Nah, copyright.
Take me as your prisoner.
I'm afraid I'm not taking prisoners today.
Who was this source he spoke of? This might sound like
What
a conspiracy.
source? Did you hear anything
They
about
think
a
it
source?
No, I think they're trying to say
Oh,
it's
when you said,
Iroh.
my sources tell me this is the last waterbenders in this
Take
tribe.
me as your prisoner.
I'm
Who said it was
afraid I'm not
Iroh?
Yeah,
taking
you don't know
prisoners
who it
today.
was.
Who was this source he spoke of? This might sound like a conspiracy, but it's very possible that it was Iroh.
Yeah, it is very possible. It's also very possible that it was Ozai or Zhao or fucking anyone.
or Zulon.
Yeah, Zulon. Are we gonna talk
Fire
about
Lord
him?
Azulon.
The guy in charge
No.
of like everything?
No, but we're gonna blame his son.
Fucking hell.
But that was something the general kept to himself. The Southern Raiders almost completely wiped out every waterbender in the South Pole. And Iroh wasn't done there. His dream was to conquer the Earth.
I love how he says Iroh wasn't done there. It's like, no,
I was just
he's
gonna
done
say,
more evil things.
Like, that was all Iroh's fault.
I love the idea that everything bad that's happened in this series is Iroh's fault. It's like the air nomads, that was him.
Iroh.
Iroh.
Southern Water Tribe,
kidnapped,
Iroh.
That was Iroh. Iroh hired the sandbenders. He paid them off.
Oh my god.
Iroh paid off the serpent in the Serpent's Pass.
Mm-hmm. He was the one who had Suki imprisoned. The rest of the Kyoshi warriors.
Single-handedly he locked their cell himself and threw away the key.
Oh yeah.
Iroh tipped Azula off about Ba Sing Se. He said, "You should go conquer that place."
Steal the Dai Li while you're at it.
Mm-hmm.
Earth Kingdom capital, Ba Sing Se. The city's walls were an architectural marvel, and for hundreds of years, not one invader had penetrated the outer wall.
Many have tried to break through it, but none have succeeded.
What about the Dragon of the West? He got in.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a second, Toph. Iroh's forces became the first battalion to break through the walls of Ba Sing Se. He was about to gain control of the Fire Nation and the Earth Kingdom. No one seems to realize how close Iroh came to ruling the entire world, with no avatar to challenge him.
If the city is as magnificent as its wall, Ba Sing Se must be something to behold.
Yeah, this is the clip.
Mm-hmm.
Just pausing for comment.
I hope you all may see it someday. If we don't burn it to the ground first.
Now,
I don't think that was an evil laugh.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think if anything, it might have been him trying to convince whatever, and then just maybe coping?
Maybe. Like I said, there's many reads you can have. I think it's unfair to go straight to evil.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're probably thinking, yes, we know Iroh was a war criminal, but he became a changed man when his son died. Wrong! 𝐿 was killed during the siege of Ba Sing Se. His death caused Iroh to not only abandon the siege, but the Fire Nation as well.
He found out his son died and he just fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
A real general would stay and burn Ba Sing Se to the ground.
Are you saying he should have done that?
And I think if anything, that proves our point. The fact that he didn't stay after his only son died, any evil person would have. 𝐒𝐂𝐈𝐻𝐿 absolutely would have stayed. Zuko died, he wouldn't have given a shit.
Yeah. He would have been like, okay, and?
Mm-hmm.
Your son Zuko, he's dead. Who?
Yeah. Whoops.
Yeah, he's making our point for us.
Oh,
I feel
really?
like the fact that it's coming from, child Azula should be a big red flag.
Yeah, just the most evil person in the whole series besides 𝐒𝐿 and Sozin.
Not lose the battle and come home crying.
What is wrong with that child?
In his absence, 𝐒𝐿 took the throne, and things only got worse from there.
Hail, Fire Lord 𝐒𝐿!
Even though Iroh wasn't the Fire Lord, he returned home where he could continue to attend war meetings and go over battle strategies. And one day, he had the brilliant idea of letting his nephew attend one of these.
Are you seriously going to say that Zuko getting his scar was his fault? Are you really going there?
I don't want them to go there.
Meetings.
So I am recommending the 41st Division.
But the 41st is entirely new recruits. How do you expect?
These clips are getting long.
them to defeat a powerful Earth Kingdom battalion.
I don't. They'll
I don't.
Ouch.
be used as a distraction while we mount an attack from the rear. What better to use as bait than fresh meat?
You can't
Fresh meat.
You can't sacrifice.
He's so evil. Like
So freaking evil.
sacrifice an entire division like that? Those soldiers love and defend our nation. How can you betray them?
Zuko
Oh,
was right.
looks.
everyone disliked that.
Zuko, in that moment, Zuko knew he fucked up.
You see? But it was not his place to speak out. And there were dire consequences.
When Ozai challenged Zuko to an Agni Kai, Iroh could have stepped in as his champion. We've seen
Shut the fuck up.
Oh my god.
Iroh step in during an Agni Kai before.
He didn't step in. He was basically the referee.
That was after the Agni Kai was done.
That,
They finished.
yeah, that was after it was over.
It was finished. If Zuko had won, and then like Zhao went to kill him, and
Yeah, Zhao was being
despite
a
the
sore
fact.
loser. He wanted to hit him out of
Mhm.
spite. And he stepped in and be like,
Like-
no, it's over.
Iroh literally says that. He mentions it. He's like, no, like take your defeat with honor.
Yeah.
They're
So
reach.
this is how the great Zhao acts in defeat.
Yeah.
Disgraceful.
They are so reaching.
You gotta stop, man. You gotta let this one go. It's absurd.
So why was this so different? Ozai might have been Fire Lord.
Oh my god. Can you imagine stepping in during an Agni Kai involving the Fire Lord?
While the
Iroh
whole
would have been
freaking
executed.
yeah, while the whole freaking city is watching.
Yeah. That's another disgrace. They would have had him thrown in prison.
So they're picking and choosing what sounds good to the story without giving full context. Like just the last scene.
But at his core, he was Iroh's baby brother. Isn't he cute?
I hated that.
One-on-one, Iroh would destroy Ozai. But instead of helping Zuko, he literally turned the other cheek.
Actually, we don't even know if Iroh could beat Ozai. Like,
And
we're not given
that-
anything definitive.
And in this scene, he's trying to argue that he couldn't even look. Yeah, because he was the only person who didn't want to see his nephew being fucking burned in the face.
They're saying, like, he turned the other cheek. I'm like, are you even trying to, like, give this show any sort of, like, leeway? He was
Reddit?
horrified. He didn't want to look.
You can see it in his face.
Look at
He's
his
not turning.
face.
He looks so upset and disgusted. He's not turning the other cheek. That would be leaving. That would be like looking and not even caring and just walking away. He's clearly visibly upset by the fact that Zuko's about to be burnt.
I can't believe this isn't an April Fool's video.
I think it really was just for shock.
Iroh accompanied Zuko during his banishment in order to help him find the Avatar, knowing that he hasn't been seen in over 100 years.
First, we'll check each.
Yeah, that was the point. It's a fool's errand.
Yeah.
It's like sending someone to go look for a snipe. Like, go look for this thing that doesn't exist. He wanted him to go looking for... He's giving him company. How is this bad?
I was just gonna say, he's trying to look out for his nephew who's been banished. He's never known life outside of the Fire Nation.
Oh my god.
Reach.
He's acting like Iroh's keeping a secret that the Avatar hasn't been seen. Like, no, everybody knows that. Everybody knows that, including Zuko.
Yeah, like he's supposed to be like, hey Zuko, this is a fool's errand. Zuko knows that, but if he says that, Zuko's gonna lose all hope, and he knows better than to do that.
Yes. He has to tell himself that the Avatar is out there and he can find him and restore his honor, because otherwise you would go insane. You're looking for someone who doesn't exist.
each of the air temples.
Exactly.
Then we'll scour the world, searching even the most remote locations until we find him.
Prince Zuko, it's only been a week since your banishment. You should take some time to heal and rest.
What else would I expect to hear from the laziest man in the Fire Nation?
And let's be real, they never would have found him before Katara and Sokka did.
That light came from
Yeah,
an
that's the
incredibly
point.
powerful source. It has to be him.
Oh, it's just the celestial light. We've been down this road before, Prince Zuko. I don't
A lot of clips.
want you to get too excited over nothing.
What was Iroh's endgame here? Was he just going to sail the seas, drinking tea, and playing Pai Sho forever?
Yes.
Yes.
I think at one point Iroh says like he sees this as like an extended vacation.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't expect to find the Avatar. Nobody did.
Nobody
He's just
did.
like, my son is out traveling the world. I might as well keep him company and enjoy myself in the process.
Yeah, he just wants to be there for Zuko. Like, just what?
Finding the Avatar gave Zuko hope. Hope that one day he would return home and regain his honor. But for Iroh, it was like a friggin' vacation.
We need to move on. We're closing in on the Avatar's trail, and I don't want to lose
You're
him.
almost there. You got it.
You look tired, Prince Zuko. Why don't you join me in these hot springs and soak away your troubles?
My troubles cannot be soaked away. It's time to go!
You should take your teacher's advice.
Being real careful here.
That's valid. Too far into it for them.
Relax a little. The temperature's just right. I heated it myself.
Iroh never cared about finding the Avatar. He could have found...
What are you talking about?
Because he didn't want Zuko, even if they found the Avatar, he didn't want Zuko to go back to that tyrannical rule under his sociopathic father.
I just like... He never cared about finding the Avatar. He didn't expect to find him. That was the point.
Mm-hmm. Ridiculous.
He was being moral support.
Mm-hmm.
Found Aang in like 5 minutes if he wanted to.
I need your help.
What do you mean? Did you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
He could have found Aang in 5 minutes if he wanted to. What? How do you know?
No. He only
Sozin
knew
was searching
where
for like years and he didn't find him.
only knew where he was in this specific moment because the Avatar was staying in Ba Sing Se as like a royal guest. I'm sure he's not an idiot and just heard people talking about it.
And he was confirmed to be alive at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Can you stop? This
Such a
video,
reach.
man.
Iroh's journey with Zuko served as a shield to hide his dark past. His kindness, wisdom, and general goofiness, it's all a facade.
What's going on in
Oh,
there?
come on. No, don't. You can't use this as evidence that his goofiness is a facade.
I was just gonna say, this was so that he could survive in prison.
Yeah, he actually was using it as a facade here because they didn't want him to know he was training. You
Break
buffoon.
himself out. This was on purpose.
I was really hoping like this video would make really strong points and make us reconsider whether Iroh really is the good guy or not. This is just horrible.
You're making me side with Iroh more than the actual Avatar
Yeah,
creators.
You're helping me.
Yeah, you're proving our point.
I'm just picturing someone going like, here, I have all the proof that Iroh's a villain, and he shows him this. And the guy he showed it to was like, what was that? And he's like, wait, he's gonna make a point eventually, I promise.
It's a battle strategy to fake weakness in order for your opponent to underestimate you.
Yeah, but he doesn't do it all the time. He's actually
He
a
did it.
genuinely fun and goofy person.
Yeah, he did it in those 2 instances to stay alive.
Yeah, they were tactical advantages. He's not
Mhm.
always pretending. You can't pretend for long periods of time.
It's just smart.
Are loose and they jangle around and bump my wrists. It would help me if you would tighten them so they wouldn't shake around so much.
I swear this video has more clips than it does arguments.
I know.
All to pad out that runtime. You gotta reach 10 minutes somehow.
And not only that.
Now, are we?
I was gonna say not only that, but it's all taken out of context.
Yeah, there's specific context for these things, and it's like someone going out of their way to make Iroh look as horrible as possible.
Yeah, and it's the freaking Avatar YouTube channel.
Like, there's a right way to make this case, you know what I mean? Like, there's a legitimate evidence you could use. You could be like the siege of Ba Sing Se, or like him like tacitly going along with Commander Zhao, whatever he does, and whatever Zuko does. But it's like, you picked the most horrible references you could have used.
And like brought up no solid arguments.
Horrible.
Are we saying that Iroh is secretly an evil character? Yeah, pretty much.
Oh my god. You had a chance to save yourself. You could have said no. That would be ridiculous. You doubled down.
You wonder
Oh,
how
really?
close things came to being completely different. If 𝐿10 was still alive, Iroh might have taken Ba Sing Se and ruled the entire world. In that timeline, he would be the one facing off against Aang during Sozin's comet.
Yeah, but it didn't freaking happen that way. Because destiny.
Can you imagine? Would Aang be able to defeat this Iroh?
There are a lot of things that could have happened. Like, Katara could have never found Aang in the iceberg, and then the world would be fucked for another 100 years. But that's not what we got.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but guess what? Didn't happen.
Do you have any hot takes or unpopular opinions?
It's obvious that the
yes.
I have a hot take about this video. It's
We've had
terrible.
hot takes throughout the entire video.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe
That's it?
for all things
That's
Avatar.
it? That's all you have?
It had no arguments, showed every clip out of context, and then in the end we're like, yes, he's evil. Because they want engagement and they want people to fight in the comments.
I don't think we gave him anything.
Nothing.
There was no point where we were like, yeah, okay. It was just like, it was either stuff that was just true, you know? Stuff that you can't disagree with because it's just like facts. And then you have like these really bizarre claims. Like you said, just clips taken out of context. Making me question if you've watched the show.
Ridiculous. And we
Who's that
knew.
in chat? Is that
Knew
you,
from the
Al?
start. Yeah, it is.
Hi, Al. Yeah, we are pretty
One
smart.
listener. But yeah, just no solid arguments, absolutely terrible. Back to the iceberg. Just
Yeah,
forget
I
about
think-
that freaking video.
I think the record has been set straight that, like, if the Avatar YouTube channel couldn't do it, like, come on. What else have we got? Oh, what do you think of the idea that Dai Li is of airbender descent.
I see why people say that. I don't agree, but
Tell
I
me
don't
why.
know. Because I think they were trying to argue that because she's so light on her feet, and in battle she could just like jump around and move from place to place. Plus, she has gray eyes, like most air nomads do. But I think they would know if one of her parents used to be an air nomad. That was never proven.
I'm okay with it, but not if her parents were air nomads, you know? I'm okay, like, if, like, it's a generational thing. Like, somewhere along the family tree, she had an airbender. Because we were talking about earlier how, like, I don't think it's possible that Sozin could have killed all of them. Like, one of them would have settled down. And I'm okay with, like, one of those descendants being a Fire Nation circus person. And she's inherited that that lightness in the eyes.
I think that would be more arguable if she wasn't born during the 100-Year War. I don't think there was enough time throughout generations for one of her ancestors to meet an air nomad and marry them. They were all wiped out by then.
I didn't think of that. Because Dai Li's only like 14. That means like during year like 86 of the war, she would have been born.
Yeah, so it doesn't stick out to me as being true, but I see the reasoning why.
If they introduced it as part of the lore, like Dai Li is descended from airbenders, I'd be like, so you're gonna have to. There's some explaining you have to do before I fully buy that. Because if there's her, then there should be others.
Yeah. So,
you know what? Sorry to cut you off, but
you're good.
Every air nomad has air bending. That's a unique thing about that nation. There are no like non-bending air nomads. So yeah, that theory can't hold weight because inevitably like one of the children in the family tree would have inherited airbending and possibly Dai Li herself.
Yeah, so I think that argument doesn't hold a lot of weight.
It doesn't hold, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm guessing we're just going to take the highlights from this iceberg for now since we're running out of time a bit.
Yeah, we're cutting into like the last 20 minutes here.
Yeah, so I was like either that or I don't think everything needs to be covered unless people want to see that. You let us know and we'll come and revisit it, but I think up until like for the next 20 minutes we can just pick out the things that seem the most like shocking. Like there are some things in here like how 𝐒𝐂𝐈𝐀, like that was literally confirmed just to be her name before the series actually started. That's not that interesting.
Yeah.
Just a little lore.
If there's anything like super like chat, is there anything on the old iceberg that you want us to tackle? Does anything stand out to you?
Yeah, and while we're waiting for anybody to respond, I think I want to bring up one on here that makes me really angry, and I'm very passionate about it.
Sure. Go for
Zutara works better. Absolutely. Yes.
No.
No.
Sorry.
And no, I hate the people who are Zutara versus 𝐒𝐃𝐈𝐿. Like
the Zutarians. Disgusting.
Like I hate when people argue like there was no chemistry between Aang and Katara. Shut up.
Oh, but
yes, there was
between Zuko and Katara.
She hated him for half the series. They had one deep talk in a cave, and then suddenly they're in love.
You don't understand, Perry. She touched his face. They're in love.
Oh, so clearly they're soulmates.
Destined
My bad.
To be together.
My mistake.
And you're also forgetting she hugged him that one time.
Right, and then when they accidentally grazed hands the other time.
Before marriage? Yeah, that'll do it.
Just something about that makes me so angry.
Just
It's
why?
like they spent. I like how they did Katara and Aang's like relationship. Like they didn't start it out as like full fledged. They're into each other. They start dating. Like I like that they eventually build it up through moments. Like in the beginning, Aang obviously starts to have develop a little crush on her because she's so pretty. But then he eventually just falls in love with her because of how powerful and how amazing she is, like
Yeah,
as a
the
person
person.
and as a bender.
Hmm.
Yeah, not the looks. Like at first, that's absolutely what it is, and I think even Katara had a little thing for Aang because they were on Kyoshi Island, and he had that whole little like fangirl base. Katara got a little jealous at times,
Yeah.
and that was very early on in the first season. And as time went on, like there were little moments where Katara would get jealous, and of course Aang would just. They made it very obvious from the start that Aang had a little crush on Katara, and that continued on when they were in season 3 and they had that whole Fire Nation dance. That was like some chemistry.
It
You
got
don't dance with some.
got a little hot and heavy there. Like they were like sweating. It's like, man.
It really did. They looked at each other a certain way. You don't dance that way with somebody you are just friends with. And at the end, like I think Katara's reasoning made a lot of sense. Like she didn't want to have a relationship because they were at war, and God forbid they started this relationship and then one of them or both of them didn't make it out alive. That would have been devastating. Like at least she would have, if Aang had died, she would have that idea of him preserved. Like she wouldn't be like, oh man, what could our relationship have been? It would just been
Yeah.
like a
It
he
just
was
wasn't
my
the right
friend.
time.
Exactly. And that's why as soon as it was over, they started dating. Like it's not like it took a couple more years. As soon as it was over, they started dating.
Yeah, I really like their relationship. It's very cute.
It's
I
very
think
cute.
because that's what it is when you have a crush on someone. It's just like a collection of like moments that you hang on to. That's what I like about the series. Like the relationship is not at the forefront. It's kind of in the background.
Exactly.
Aang has a
Yes.
crush on Katara because she's pretty, and I think at that point Katara just sees Aang as like this goofy kid that she found, but like she starts to like him. I think she finds him like entertaining and endearing, and he has some good qualities to him. But over the course of the
Yeah.
series, she starts to realize that like Aang is a very strong person, like morally, and she starts. It's almost like she's torn between this like motherly concern for him and also just like trying to see him as an equal, as like a man in his own right.
hmm Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like I was mentioning how they don't start it off that way. They start it off like as them. It shows them falling in love along the way. Because I
Yeah.
completely agree with you. I don't think it. I think it's unrealistic to think it happens that way. Like you meet and you're immediately like, oh, we're in love. Like I know that's idealistic and
Yeah, they
people
had their
like that.
upside down, their ups and downs. They had some fights.
Yeah, like it's realistic and it shows like when you do love somebody, you fall in like you said with those little moments. Like there were little moments throughout the show where they fell in love with each other deeper and deeper, even if they didn't know it yet.
Yeah, they became friends before they became lovers, and I think that's the important thing. Like, they
Very
share a lot
important.
of hugs. Katara kisses him on the cheek a number of times.
Hmm
Um,
Yeah.
I think it
So
really starts to blossom into like love in the second or third season, you could say.
hmm
I think by the time of like the dance they had in the Fire Nation, they definitely both have feelings for each other.
hmm
It's just like an
absolutely.
unspoken thing.
Yeah, definitely. I just that's all I have to say. Zutara sucks. Pam Ame like actually
Pame's
just
in the
responded.
chat. Hi, Pame.
Yeah. Hey. And
Alex
she's
says, "Oh, sorry. Go ahead."
no, I was just gonna agree with her. She's absolutely right. The fact that they waited for each other was great. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what should have happened, and that just showed how they matured even over the course of the war. But yeah, as you were saying, Al mentioned that they want to hear either about the unaired Avatar pilot or the dropped fourth season or anything we really want to chat about. Do you want to talk about either of those?
There's a couple things you could say about the pilot, I guess. So when Nickelodeon wanted to get this show off the ground, or not Nickelodeon, the creators, they showed it to Nickelodeon. It was like a proof of concept. The designs were a little bit different. Katara's name was Kaya, as you said.
Yeah, but the name got copyrighted from somebody who, like, they had, like, a big character named Kaya.
That I didn't know.
Yeah, they, because that's why they changed it, but then by the time, Korra came around, the copyright on that name wasn't, like, a thing anymore. They were probably able to buy it out, and that's why they were able to use that name in Korra.
Oh, that would explain a lot.
Yeah.
They made it Katara's mom's name in the show, and I thought they named Kaya and Korra that because, she named her after her mom. But, I didn't know that there was someone who had a copyright to that name.
Yeah.
Claim to the name. Something that's interesting about that pilot, though, is that Zuko had a pet bird. He had a hawk. And, during their fight they had a fight on, like, scaffolding. There are some things in the pilot that made it into the show, like the fight on the scaffolding that was in Return to Omashu. That episode where Azula was holding King Bumi hostage.
Yeah.
And then Zuko's pet bird goes at it with Momo. They're, like, chasing each other over the water and stuff like that, and you see that in the episode with the pirates. Because their bird was chasing Momo around. Just neat things like that. It's cute. I'd say give it a watch if you have the time. You can find it on YouTube, I think.
Yeah.
But
it's nothing, like, serious, but it's... Yeah, the 4th season. I think they were going to explore air, right? And then...
Yes.
They didn't get renewed?
There was a couple yeah, they didn't get renewed. But they were also satisfied where the story was. I certainly was. I think there was a couple of things. They were going to explore, like, the aftermath of defeating 𝐒𝐄𝐈𝐾𝐋. Like, what consequences that would have had. The stuff about Zuko's mom. The possible redemption arc for Azula. Well, I guess that's a neat segue. How do you feel about that? Do you think she deserves one?
Honestly, I kind of like that she's evil. I think we got a good enough redemption arc through Zuko that I don't feel the need to have one from Azula as well. And I kind of agree with you. I like where the season and the series ended. Like, I think easily could have dragged it on for 3 more seasons, like, and told a bunch of different stories. And I like the idea that now they're talking about like, showing the adult gang, like in the one of the newer releases that they announced.
Yeah.
See, this feels like the right time to do that. Years after the story was told and people have formed opinions and they got all that outside perspective over the years. Now they probably know what they want to show more than anything and had years to develop that world building. But anyway, back to Azula. Sorry, off topic. I don't know. I think some villains can just be villains. I'm alright with that.
I agree. I don't think every villain needs a redemption. And I guess you could do it well, but I don't want to see it with Azula. Like, I think she's an awesome villain.
Yeah, like a really good villain. And I think this gets brought up a lot, but I completely agree with it. Like, why don't we let villains just be villains anymore? Like, people don't like bad characters anymore because I feel like they kind of conflate them with, like, cancel culture in a way. And it's like, no, they're supposed to be villains in some stories. Not all, but some, because that's what makes the story, makes it interesting, adds to the lore, and overall, like, it's just interesting. I love a good villain. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but obviously if they're like, like,
villains can
it's
just
fake.
Be villains, guys.
It's fake. They're not real. Like, it's not like Azula's an actual person who's a war criminal and who is horrible and, like, we're sitting here trying to defend her. No, she's a cartoon character from a kid's show, and I kind of liked that she was evil. It made a very interesting storyline. way she went crazy towards the end after being so evil and having it overtake her and being betrayed by her best friends because she was so evil is interesting. I think, again, we got such a great redemption arc through Zuko. I don't need another one.
I think Azula serves a very specific purpose in the show. She's supposed to represent, she's like irredeemably like bad, just horrible.
Yeah.
And I think the reason for that is so that we sympathize with Zuko by comparison. We don't always like Zuko because he gives our characters a hard time, but we don't want to see him suffer, you know what I mean? We want to see him do better and reach a better place. So it's easier to buy when he does have his redemption. Whereas Azula, it's like she's someone you want to see go down, but it's very she's evil in a satisfying way, if that makes sense. You get this feeling of like, oh, kicking your ass is gonna be so fun. I can't wait.
I completely agree with you, and
every
even
good
like
villain should have that.
Yeah, and even when like we still were at a point where Zuko hadn't redeemed himself, and they showed his flashbacks from his childhood, it was like the beginning of us starting to feel sorry for him, showing his relationship with Azula, because she was just horrible from day one, but then they're showing Zuko wasn't. But they needed Azula's horribleness for us to sympathize with him more than we would normally.
Pame says we need more female villains. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, absolutely right. There's nothing better.
I'll add to that.
And Azula was a perfect female villain.
What do you think of the idea that Azula is just as much a victim of her parents as Zuko, but she's unfairly treated because she doesn't get a redemption, but Zuko does?
I see the argument there. I totally get it, but I think, I don't know, because they both were manipulated horribly, obviously. Like, that's just unavoidable. All kids in the Fire Nation were, but them more so, considering the fact that their grandfather and Fire were the Fire Lords at the time, you know? But, and, like, obviously they had all these expectations weighed on them, but when you're a kid, like, I think Zuko's a good example of it. You don't know how to be evil, because you're a child. Like, you still have that innocence, you still have, like, years before, you know, you experience war at large and the horrible things within it. He just wasn't naturally evil. I think Azula just naturally was. Like, I think some people are just born evil in a way.
Popped out the womb evil.
Yeah, like, I think most people kind of are born with that childlike innocence and don't care, but I think some people just are wired that way. Like,
something
you can't.
Went wrong with Azula.
Something happened, yeah. At least in like the cartoon world. I don't know about real life, but I definitely think she was just wired to be evil from birth.
The way I see it is like I think it adds to the tragedy, because Azula is tragic. Like, she was pretty much raised to be a weapon from day one. And
absolutely.
You see the episode The Beach, really important episode, by the way, for our villain characters. You see her try and act like a normal teenager, and she just can't do it. She can't socialize because she wasn't raised to be like a normal person. She was
but the rest of them can.
Yeah. But the tragedy part is like she cannot be allowed to. We can't allow her to go like uncontested. She has to go down. Like, how do you go about redeeming someone like that? And someone might be like, well, you get her the help she needs. But that's what happens at the end of the series. She goes to an institution. But it's not like they kill her. I'm not saying she deserves to die, but like she does. She is a threat. She's a threat to the Fire Nation. She's a threat to the world. She has to go down. Like, there's 1,000,001 reasons why she might be the way she is, but the fact is she is the way she is.
Yeah. I agree. Like, I see the argument of, oh, well, it gets her the help she needs, like, it shows her healing from the tragedy that she was born into, but I completely agree, like, sometimes people just need to have that downfall, and they don't technically get a redemption. Their redemption is the fact that they weren't murdered and their life was spared. And oh, Pame said, do you think she would have a normal life later on when she gets tired of the villain life, or would just continue being evil?
It could be one
Oh.
or the other. If she goes to an institution, bring down that psychosis. Yeah, there's like a dozen ways her life could go.
Yeah, I just don't see her living out a normal life. Like, that's a good point, Pame. I think legitimately she would just remain some form of evil, even if it wasn't to the extent that she was in Avatar, like, in the first 3 seasons. Like, maybe past it she would be a little less evil. Like, I don't think that would ever leave her as a person.
I'm not gonna say she doesn't deserve redemption, but there's a lot of unlearning she would have to do, and it's
Absolutely.
At the point where I'm wondering if it's too late.
Yeah, absolutely. Pame said, because I would also just like to see a happy ending for her, even if it's her taking it over, lol. That's a good point.
About that.
That's a good point. I see why she's saying that, but
I like her to live if I was writing this character, I would write her to she kept doing evil things, but eventually she calmed down and she just lived a peaceful life on her own, that sort of thing. Maybe she looks back on her childhood with regret and be like, man, I didn't get to be a normal kid, and now I'm all alone because nobody trusts me. It's almost like a sad old life, but she would live the rest of her days peacefully, I suppose. I don't think she would be going around starting wars till the end.
Yeah, I think that was Pame's point, where in the end she just could look back and have regret and still just live out the rest of her days.
Yeah.
Even with that regret, lifestyle. But yeah, I can see that. That would make sense, but I don't think she would ever be an over purposefully good person, if that makes sense. She wouldn't go out of her way to be a good person. She would just kind of sit there with regret.
I don't think she'd be helping out at the homeless shelter or whatever. I think she would just be a normal citizen, for lack of a better term.
Yeah,
until she dies.
And hey, maybe she deserves that because she was born into this horrible tragedy and this horrible manipulative family and nation. But you will never know, You'll never know if that was just who she was or if it was just her family's influence. But
yeah,
it's nice. It's nice hearing everyone's perspective on it.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up today.
I agree, yeah. We didn't cover everything in the iceberg, so maybe we should revisit it after we talk about Korra in 2 weeks.
Yes.
If you guys would be if you guys would be interested in that, let us know in the chat or, anywhere else, on our social medias or personally. And if you liked this episode, let us know and like it, share it. It'll be up on our channel, and tune in another 2 weeks because that's our schedule for right now. We're thinking every other Sunday.
Yeah, consider subscribing as well.
Mm-hmm.
You might enjoy it. You could.
Yeah,
share it with your friends. They could have fun watching this as well. Like to see
if you guys
people in the chat. But,
it would be really fun. Yeah, I loved the questions that Al and Pame were bringing up. That made it way more interactive.
Yeah.
Pame said you guys did great. Can't wait to see more. Thank you.
You were a lovely audience.
Yeah, Al said it would be nice. Good follow-up. Thank you. You guys rock. Thank you for the questions and the engagement. And yeah, again, I think we should revisit it after we talk about Korra and whatever else you guys are interested in, let us know.
On that note, next time we meet will be February 5th, and we will be talking about Legend of Korra, the books, and the future for Avatar. And, maybe we might have a guest. Who knows? But
yeah,
it was rocky in the beginning, but we made it work. Thank
you
for joining us for our very first episode of Haters Without a Cause.
Yes, and thank you for bearing with us during those technical difficulties. And yeah, again, our schedule for right now tentatively is every other Sunday, probably around 3 or 4, like around those times. But yeah, see you guys next time.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.